Why is Trump suing the New York Times for $15 billion? On Monday, September 15th, President Donald Trump published an announcement on Truth Social, stating, "Today I have the great honor of bringing a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times, one of the worst and most degenerate newspapers in the history of our country, becoming a virtual mouthpiece for the radical left Democrat Party." Trump's lawsuit names both the New York Times and Penguin Random House, a multinational publishing conglomerate, in the defamation and libel suit. The Times is cited for its coverage of Trump's family and political movement, as well as reporting on his alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The suit references a series of articles, including an editorial published before the 2024 election, that argued Trump was unfit for office. Penguin Random House is also cited for a 2024 book it published titled Lucky Loser: How Donald Trump Squandered His Father's Fortune and Created the Illusion of Success. According to the filing, these publications have damaged Trump's business and personal reputation. The suit claims they caused significant economic harm to his brand, valuation, and future prospects. In his Truth Social post, Trump accused the New York Times of favoritism towards Vice President Kamala Harris, stating, "Harris was actually put dead center on the front page of the New York Times, something heretofore unheard of. The Times has engaged in a decades-long method of lying about your favorite president, me." What do you think about Trump suing the New York Times and Penguin Random House?
A federal judge just tossed Trump's $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times and Penguin Random House, calling his 85-page complaint improper and impermissible. Finally, a win for free speech in a week full of bad news for free speech. The judge said that Trump's lawyers spent 80 pages on rants and only then alleged defamation. Now the judge says any new filing has to be capped at 40 pages. Trump has 28 days to refile, but for now, this case is dead. It is a rare victory for the First Amendment after a week of threats and censorship headlines.
A major loss for Trump just in. A federal judge has just thrown out Donald Trump's $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times, ruling that the lawsuit lacked any legitimate legal claims. Trump recently sued the Times, and throughout the lawsuit just whined that the Times' coverage of him wasn't nice enough and didn't give him enough credit for how successful he was as a businessman. He also attacked the Times for their endorsement of Kamala Harris. The rejection by U.S. District Judge Mary Day in Florida came just days after Trump filed the lawsuit. The judge wrote, quote, "As every lawyer knows, or is presumed to know, a complaint is not a public forum for vituperation and invective, not a protected platform to rage against an adversary. A complaint is not a megaphone for public relations or a podium for passionate oration at a political rally or the functional equivalent of the Hyde Park Speaker's Corner." The judge is, however, giving Trump 28 days to fix the lawsuit. We've got a new episode of the Midas Touch podcast out now with all the news, so check it out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
The judge just tossed Trump's $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. So let's break it down. Today, a federal judge dismissed Trump's massive defamation suit against the paper, which claimed that the Times maliciously published false and disparaging statements about him. Court said that Trump's complaint was overly long, tedious, and burdensome, violating procedural rules. The judge wrote that it failed to present a short and plain statement of the claims. Trump now has 28 days to refile a shorter version if he wants the case to continue. If he doesn't, the dismissal becomes final. So make sure to come back for updates, and let me know if you have any comments or questions down below.
Breaking news, as a federal judge just threw out Trump's defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times. He was suing them for $15 billion. A judge threw it out and called it a political document rather than a legal filing. Then Trump was asked by ABC's Jonathan Karl if he was still fulfilling his promise to defend free speech, and here's what he had to say.
And that's why I sued the New York Times 2 days ago for a lot of money. Because I'm winning. I'm winning the cases, and the reason I'm winning is because you're guilty, John. You're guilty. ABC is a terrible network, a very unfair network, and you should be ashamed of yourself. NBC is equally bad. I don't know who's worse.
It's a complete and blatant lie. He did not win that lawsuit. Trump's attorneys submitted an 85-page complaint. The judge said they could resubmit again within 28 days, but only 40 pages. Now, Trump, being the crazy narcissist he is, didn't just stop there.
You know, for you to stand there and act so innocent and ask me a question like that. But look, you paid a big price because you were dishonest, John. The reason I won that lawsuit was because you were dishonest. You were proven to be dishonest.
Another blatant lie. He did not win a lawsuit against ABC. Nothing was proven in court because it never went to trial, and Trump accepted a settlement offer from ABC. So instead of going through trial, he just took a payment of money. It's just another one of Trump's grifts, and now he's taking aim at NBC. This is why ABC should have never settled. They should have fought it out in court. The First Amendment was on their side and they would have won. And now Trump is trying to silence his critics and control the narrative, and it's because they failed at doing this the first time around, and they have continued to do it. He is launching a full-on assault on free speech and the freedom of the press. And the world is taking note, as we are seeing with the mass cancellations of Disney Plus, Hulu, their other streaming applications, their theme parks. People are sending a message with the boycott to Disney that their free speech is more important than the media and movies and TV shows that are on their streaming platforms. They are telling Disney and every other network, you better stand up to Trump and you better do it now. Trump is unhinged and a threat to our democracy. Let me know if you agree. Comment, like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
This is a breaking news alert. Donald Trump's $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times for purported defamation has just been thrown out by a federal judge in the Middle District of Florida, a Republican judge as well, a judge appointed by George H.W. Bush in 1991, Judge Merriday. He dismissed this case instantly, basically saying on its face, it is frivolous. This looks more like a vexatious press release than an actual complaint. He says, look, if you want to go back and bring a real lawsuit before my court, you can go and decide to do that, but you filed this 85-page slop, which barely even references what your actual grievance is with the New York Times. So get the hell out of my court and don't come back unless you are going to actually bring a legitimate lawsuit. I'm going to read for you the exact words of this George H.W. Bush appointed judge, Judge Merriday. We need to see more of this from federal judges. We previously did also in another case in Florida, and I'm glad that these Florida judges, federal judges, are no nonsense, because Trump is making a mockery of our legal system and also his incredibly weak ego having him file these lawsuits to coerce companies from the Oval Office need to be called out by the judiciary. But do you remember back in 2023 when another federal judge in Florida, Judge Middlebrooks, called Donald Trump out and Alina Habba out and sanctioned them $1 million? Good. That's more of what we need to see.
So ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, has had this defamation lawsuit against news outlet New York Times thrown out by a judge in Florida, Judge Stephen Merriday. So in this defamation lawsuit, Trump wanted to sue New York Times for $15 billion in damages, claiming that the news outlet had tarnished his name, they had smeared his reputation, and he also claimed that they were a huge mouthpiece for the Democratic Party and in propagating their policies. So the judge from Florida claimed that the lawsuit by Trump's team the document was too long. It was 85 pages, and for the first 80 pages it was just about praising Donald Trump, his accolades, and it was after the 80th page that they formally lodged the complaint. So the case has been termed impermissible, and the legal team of President Trump has been given 28 days to file another amended complaint. The New York Times, on the other hand, has claimed this as a victory for free speech, and they want to continue fighting on for independent reporting. So Donald J. Trump has a history of targeting and suing news and media outlets. Just this year alone, he had sued CBS News and ABC News for various reasons, such as linking him to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. And also, there's that company that has been mentioned that claims that Trump is a Nepo baby, that he squandered his father's wealth, that his story of rise to success is a big illusion. So he has also gone ahead to sue that company in this same lawsuit. So as I've said, they have been given 28 days to file another complaint. So we are yet to see how this case is going to develop. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for today's development. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't, and also don't forget to leave a like. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers and peace.